As members of this Legislative Assembly, we dedicate our lives anew to the service of our province and our country. Amen.
Introduction of visitors. Presenting petitions. Reading and receiving petitions. Presenting reports by standing and special committees. Notices of motions. Introduction of bills. Tabling returns and reports.
Quiet. Minister of Advanced Education.
Speaker, I wish to table the 1989-90 annual report for both Lakeland College and the annual report for Lethbridge Community College.
The Attorney General.
I would like to table the 89-90 annual report for the Public Service Employee Relations Board.
Introduction of
Order, please. Member for Calgary McKnight.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to table 4 copies of the summary of recommendations of the Mayor's Task Force on Community and Family Violence, which provides sad comment on the lack of action on family violence by this government.
The Honourable Member, that's not the way to do it. Been here long enough, 2 years, you should know. Thank you. Clerk.
introduction of special guests.
The Minister of Culture, Multiculturalism, followed by the Minister of Health.
Monsieur le Président, je désire faire les introductions cet après-midi de 2 acteurs canadiens très distingués. We have in your gallery, Mr. Speaker, 2 distinguished Canadian actors, Huguette Oligny and Gratien Gélinas, who are appearing at the Citadel Theatre's Rice stage in the production of Mr. Gélinas's play, The Passion of Narcisse Monduc. Both actors have made a long-standing contribution to the Canadian and international theatre scene. They're both recipients of the Order of Canada, and I would ask that the Assembly dit bonjour et bienvenue in the traditional fashion.
Minister of Health.
Mr. Speaker, it's my pleasure to introduce to you and through you to members of the Assembly Major Andrew Allen. Major Allen is a mission specialist and astronaut with the National Aeronautics Space Administration, who is in Edmonton to assist the Edmonton Space Science Centre launch of its new NASA IMAX Canada co-produced film on our environment called Blue Planet. It is also the Challenger Learning Center launch, which is will be starting in Edmonton in October, which will simulate space travel at its first international site outside of the United States. Major Allen is joined by Patricia Hutchinson from the Edmonton Space Science Center, as well as Bernie Hughes, who is a volunteer with the center. Please join me in welcoming Major Allen with a warm Alberta welcome, along with his 2 companions who are with him today.
Member for Edmonton Kingsway.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's my pleasure today to introduce to you and to members of the Assembly 14 students from the Winifred Stewart campus of the Alberta Vocational Centre. They are studying English as a second language, and they are accompanied by their teacher, Sonia Ostaszewski. I request that they stand and receive the warm welcome of the Assembly.
Edmonton Millwoods.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's my pleasure to introduce to you and to the other members of the Assembly this afternoon 40 students from Ecota Elementary School in the constituency of Edmonton Millwoods. And I'd just like to thank my colleague, the Opposition House Leader, for standing in for me when pictures were taken earlier due to a scheduling conflict. I'd ask them now to stand and please receive the very warm welcome of our Assembly.
Additional. Honourable members, I would just point out that today marks the 2nd anniversary for 21 members of the Legislative Assembly who were first elected on March the 20th, 1989.
Ministerial statements. Oral question period.
Yes, Mr. Speaker. To the Premier, Mr. Speaker, and I'd like to continue with the Novotel bungling by this government, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in response to false projections of Novatel's 1990 earnings contained in the TELUS prospectus last September, this government agreed to compensate Novotel for whatever amount its earnings fell short of the prospectus projection from July to the end of December 1990.
What a
Mr.
deal.
Speaker, in reality, what this government did, the Premier is a leader, extended a blank check to Novotel to cover its real losses for that period. Mr. Speaker, according to the government's amended prospectus and an order in council signed by this Premier, Mr. Speaker, no limit was put on the amount of this compensation. Now, Mr. Speaker, this is unbelievable. Any businessman with half a brain would not do such a thing, Mr. Speaker.
Got that right.
My question to the Premier, would the Premier explain why this government did not place some limit on the amount of this commitment of taxpayers' dollars?
Mr. Speaker, the minister responsible for Novotel is unavoidably out of the House today. I'll take notice of the question, and the minister will be able to respond when he returns.
Mr. Speaker, I would remind this Premier that he's ultimately responsible for this mess. I notice it's his name that signed this order in council, Mr. Speaker, so maybe he's got to answer the question. Now, Mr. Speaker, the question is obvious. What has happened here? And I'd like the Premier to answer this question rather than pushing it off on poor old Freddie, Mr. Speaker. But I must remind that this Premier, that they gave us a blank check through Novotel and just made a serious mistake. This company just made a serious mistake in its profit loss projection, even though the minister did not have the 1990 full financial statements of the year. And again, the Premier signed this, Mr. Speaker, and I want to ask him this question. Why didn't the government, led by this Premier, compensate Novotel only up to the amount of its revised projection of earnings? In other words, about $21 million, instead of giving it a blank promise of full compensation for whatever losses it incurred, Mr. Speaker.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the honourable member can be indignant if he likes. However, he's asked the same question and the same answer applies.
Mr. Speaker, let me ask this Premier this question. I asked the minister who is responsible. He sat there yesterday for millions of dollars of losses. Now I'm asking the Premier the same question. There's so many errors in this thing, it's become a charade, and it's costing the taxpayers millions and millions of dollars, Mr. Speaker. Right. And I want to ask the Premier now, will he admit that cabinet minister and this Premier made these mistakes and somebody has to be held responsible? Who is it responsible? Is it him or you, Mr. Premier?
Well, Mr. Speaker, those questions have already been dealt with in the House, and the honourable minister is responsible, has been dealing with those matters with the Leader of the Opposition. He may wish to repeat his questions, and he gets the same answer.
Second main question, Leader of the Opposition.
Nobody's responsible. Millions of dollars gone, but nobody's responsible, Mr. Speaker. Not even the Premier.
What a lame
But, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to ask my second set of questions to this same Premier who isn't responsible for anything, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, time and time again, this government shows clearly to Albertans what it does have lots of money for in this province and what it does not. Well, this government can't jump fast enough to pour taxpayers' dollars into companies like Novotel without even having an accurate financial statements to boot, Mr. Speaker. It has no money for services like health care for the people of our province.
Right.
Mr. Speaker, we've done some investigating in the health care area, and what we find is appalling. Since 1987 alone, this government has closed over 1,000 hospital beds and cut almost 500 health care workers from our health care system in this province. And we understand more is coming, Mr. Speaker. My question to the Premier, will the Premier explain how it is that this government can find money to backstop Novotel and have so little money for health care that hospital beds have to be closed and health care workers fired?
Mr. Speaker, the honourable leader is so far off base that it's kind of scary that he would be so completely wrong. I know the Minister of Health is here and is going to want to respond, but let's realize that the health budget is in excess of $3 billion, Mr. Speaker, probably greater than all the taxpayers' dollars that are collected in any given year in this province, and that last year it was increased by some 8%, when we know that inflation was somewhere around 3.5% to 4%. So, Mr. Speaker, the Honourable Leader of the Opposition doesn't know what he's talking about. This government has funded, and very well, a superb health care system. Now, the Minister of Health may wish to expand on this because he wants to get into specifics about beds, but let's be very clear that this government has the funds, and it's probably the best health care system in Canada, and it receives the best funds in Canada.
Mr. Speaker, what is frankly scaring the people of Alberta is the absolute incompetence of this government. That's what's scary. Now, Mr. Speaker, the Premier can stand up and say whatever he wants. The reality is, and I repeat, 1,000 hospital beds closed since 1987, 500 healthcare workers fired, waiting lists all over the province, people in the aisles, Mr. Speaker, and he tells us this is a great system, Mr. Speaker? Yeah. You know, no Albertan believes that. My question, knowing these facts, and the Premier to give us an honest answer instead of trying to slough it off to the Minister of Health, what do these facts say to the Premier about his government's performance to health care for our citizens in this province? The charade or the chaos that's going on now, Mr. Speaker.
Well, Mr. Speaker, again, the poor honourable member from Norwood doesn't know what he's talking about. I'm going to ask the Minister of Health to try and educate him a little because he's so completely off base.
Give him a break. Minister of Health, Chair recognizes you. I'm sorry, Honourable. Beauchesne clearly states that it is up to the government to decide who does the answering, and very briefly, Minister of Health, followed by supplementary. Sorry. Minister of Health, briefly.
Premier,
Excuse me, Westlock Sturgeon. Order, please, Westlock Sturgeon. This is not some kind of a game. Minister of Health.
Yeah.
Mr. Speaker, I think it's important that we do get into the issue of funding for health in this province. And if we only need look at the $292 million increase that's going into our health system over and above the $3.4 billion base that the Premier mentioned, we've already announced an increase of funding of $83 million for the next fiscal year. And during the summer break, I think it's important that I note that I looked at many of the other universal and publicly funded health systems that are operating in the world. And it's interesting that the cries of crisis are something that frankly is quite endemic to those systems. I think it's important to put on the record that I believe in the Canadian health system, and I certainly pledge this government's commitment to sustain it into the future, which is why we are doing the innovative approach rather than the status quo approach preferred by the opposition towards health funding in our province.
Status quo, yeah.
The answers were better from the Premier. It's unbelievable, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, my question is to the Premier. This is a serious problem no matter what light you put on it. There are people that can't get beds. There are people that are suffering emergencies in this province, and anybody knows that is going in this province. It's going to get worse, Mr. Speaker, because your good friend Michael Wilson cut almost $900 million over the next 5 years from health care in transfer payments.
Shame.
Mr. Speaker, our Treasurer says that's great. That's the Alberta agenda, Mr. Speaker, and I want to ask the Premier this. Does the Premier agree with his esteemed provincial treasurer that the federal government is following Alberta's agenda and it is reasonable to cut $900 million from the health care budget for Alberta?
Mr. Speaker, that's certainly his quote, not ours. And I must say, Mr. Speaker, if the honourable member is going to move in and take over the health responsibilities of the opposition, he should please get himself up to date on what's going on. Frankly, Mr. Speaker, there are many matters in which the federal government are following the Alberta lead, yes.
Leader of the Liberal Party, Edmonton Glengarry.
Mr.
Speaker, Albertans have the possibility of an exposure of some $900 million if Novotel goes down. There is ample evidence that there was mismanagement at Novotel, and I think pretty good evidence that the minister didn't do his job. My questions are to the Premier. In spite of losses for some 7 years by Novotel, I'm informed that bonuses were paid to senior managers last year and the year before. Will the Premier agree and undertake to table tomorrow in this legislature the exact amounts of the bonuses that were paid to those senior managers?
Mr. Speaker, the minister responsible will be back in the House and will respond to the honourable member. I just remind him what he was told yesterday or the day before, that he knows how to request the filing of documents, and he should go through that process.
Mr. Speaker, the Premier was the one who said 2 days ago that any MLA need only stand in this legislature and ask a question, and that the Premier would answer the question, or he'd get the answer. Now that's a far cry from what he's saying today. Mr. Speaker, some of the managers that are alleged to have received these bonuses are also the managers that got axed. And I'm told that pretty generous severance packages were given to those senior managers. I would like the Premier's undertaking that he will table in this legislature the details involving the money of the monies, the severance package details that were paid to these managers. Will you agree to do that?
First, Mr. Speaker, again, the Honourable Leader of the Liberal Party, I think in his time here, has learned how to go through the process of requesting information. But he did also make some kind of a comment about what I said in Hansard. And what I said is that there are occasions when you're dealing with the health of an individual, the competitive nature of a person, or a company, the security of our country, where information can't be put out. But in most cases, all the information is given. Now, I know the honourable member fails miserably in the legislature and has to rely on gimmicks like wheelbarrows. But, Mr. Speaker, that wheelbarrow gimmick is frankly about as valuable as a Liberal membership card.
That's right.
The Premier had to read that from a prepared text because he wouldn't have enough brains to give it out of his own mind.
Sorry, honourable member, you're still not recognized. Perhaps we could have the final supplementary, honourable member, for Edmonton Glengarry, and the chair would be only too happy to initial a motion for return, which is really what this line of questions is all about.
Mr. Speaker, we're trying to get information in this assembly, and I think you'd be the first to agree that that's an important part of the democratic system. Mr. Speaker, my last question to the Premier who refuses to fill wheelbarrows is an easy one.
What's his name?
Read it. I don't have to read this one, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, there's the man that reads his questions. They're all scripted for him. Mr. Speaker, my question is this. The Premier has attempted, and particularly his minister, I should say the minister has attempted to deflect responsibility by blaming underwriters, accountants, and experts that were involved in this TELUS AGT Novotel situation. I'd like to know from the Premier whether or not the government has hired legal counsel to investigate whether or not a cause of action exists against these experts that are being blamed.
Thank you, honourable member. That's the question. You're taking far too long. You're taking the time from your own caucus. Take your place. Take your place, honourable member. You've asked the question.
Mr. Speaker, as the minister responsible for the Novotel matter has said, that all of these matters are being looked at in detail. Legal counsel is looking at the potential for action in the areas that the minister mentioned. Now, Mr. Speaker, I only want to one more time refer to the Liberal leader's letter here, because he attached to Hansard, and then so that I would know what he was quoting, and then misquoted it in the letter. So I just wanted to ask him to please get his research people going.
Calgary Milliken. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in the Calgary-Milligan area, I got an area known as Chinatown, and on the streets in Chinatown, there's a lot of rumors going around that for the people to immigrate from Hong Kong to Canada, or to Alberta, it'll take 2 to 3 years to ever get into Alberta. But if you want to go to Quebec, you can get there in less than a year. And then we get into the statistics, and now Quebec has taken 40% of all the business immigrants. These are the people with money, and only 17% of the refugees. These are the people who have no money. They're unfortunate. Alberta has taken her fair share of the refugees, which is good, 13%, but less than 5% of the business immigrants, the people with the thousands and thousands of dollars in expertise, ever come to Alberta. Can the...
Order, please, honourable member. We mentioned this yesterday in private conversation. You have to speak much more quickly. Let's get to the point. What's the question? Now, please.
Can the Minister of Career Development and Manpower please explain to this legislature why Alberta is coming out this bad on this type of arrangement?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I wouldn't wish to take the time of the Assembly to go into detail, but I should inform the honourable member of the Assembly that, yes, Quebec does have special arrangements that was then given to that province by then Prime Minister Pierre Trudeau. Those special arrangements have seen and resulted in increased... Pardon me, sir, I can't quite hear. I didn't refer to somebody else as being crazy. I would hope that wouldn't be what I heard as well. Mr. Speaker, if I may continue, under those special arrangements that were given, there was then new contractual arrangements negotiated by Quebec with the federal minister on February 5th. There was some $332 million contractual arrangements signed. Yes, Alberta does only receive some 4.6% of the entrepreneurial, self-employed, and investor category. But under the new Tier 1 arrangements that we have negotiated successfully, Alberta 1992 will see a strong and vast improvement in those particular areas because the new structure will encourage a higher level of investment. I look forward to some great strides, and it should be known as well, Mr. Speaker, that there's some $44 million has been brought into this province since 1986, contributing not only in that area, but in the many areas of ancillary benefits of housing, automobiles, and other goods as well.
Supplementary question, Mr. Speaker. The present policy for Canada, for all of Canada, out of our 300,000 immigrants or whatever we're taking a year, only 4,000 are allowed for this business immigrant program, which means there are billions of dollars that are going to other countries. Will the minister take this up with the federal government to see if they won't raise this quota from 4,000? It's ridiculously low.
Well, Mr. Speaker, to members of the Assembly, that is the crux of the issue. We're present in the stages of negotiation with the federal government, and will negotiate taking into consideration the social, demographic, and economic objectives and needs of all Albertans. And that's the purpose of our discussions. The federal minister and government are very receptive to these discussions, and I'm hopeful that we'll be able to report in due course a positive conclusion to those discussions.
Edmonton Strathcona, followed by Edmonton Goldbar.
Mr. Speaker, my question is for the Honourable Attorney General. Yesterday, Calgary Youth Court judge threatened to throw a robbery case, out of court because of a 3-year delay in bringing the case to trial. A 17-year-old has become a 20-year-old, and the case is still not decided. Does the Honourable Attorney General not recognize that delay in youth court proceedings defeats the fundamental objective of the system? And if so, what steps are being taken to correct the situation?
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to take this opportunity to welcome the member for Strathcona as the justice critic and to inform him, as we were last fall on this particular issue, that our justice system in Alberta is one of the finest, and we do not have undue delays in our court. In fact, I have said before that cases, aberrations will come through where there's a number of reasons why a particular delay might happen. In this particular instance, it's unfortunate if somebody was unduly held up in having their case heard for a period of 3 years. I've asked the department to look into the circumstances in this particular issue and would be delighted to discuss that with the member after.
Mr. Speaker, the Attorney General's staff will be able to deal with that on April 29th. The judge has set a hearing to determine exactly that point. The Young Offenders Act contains a procedure whereby alternate measure programs may be instituted to deal with situations such as this. And my question for the Attorney General is, has he considered what alternate measure programs he plans to implement? And if so, will he share with us today what plans may be in the works in that regard?
Yes, Mr. Speaker. Again, from the fall session, that topic was addressed, and in fact there has been ongoing dialogue with the bar, the judiciary, and the Attorney General's office in implementing the alternative measure. There is an alternative over here. An alternative measures in the Calgary instance more particularly than in Edmonton, and would be delighted again to discuss that with the honourable member.
Edmonton Goldbar.
Mr. Speaker, we're confronted daily with layoffs in healthcare and what I believe is a gradual systemic deterioration. Mr. Speaker, it's now come to my attention that the Edmonton Board of Health is faced with a shortfall and will be terminating a number of positions as of next Tuesday, terminating or reducing essential services already pushed beyond their limits, and the board has confirmed also the closure of 2 regional health centers as of July the 1st. I want to ask the questions of the Minister of Health. Mr. Speaker, will the Minister immediately contact this board to assure them that resources will be made available to continue their service?
Mr. Speaker, I met with the Edmonton Board of Health within the last 2 weeks and discussed their desire to move with the most effective use of their resources. I provided them a few cautions and some recommendation of direction. I have every confidence that they are working to ensure that the resources dedicated to that board are used in the best interest of health service for Edmontonians.
Mr. Speaker, that's not what I consider to be an answer to the question, but Mr. Speaker, why then will the Minister answer me? Why is the Minister promoting prevention, home care, community service collaboration at the same time as she is freezing resources? Let's not say one thing and do another.
Hear, hear.
Well, Mr. Speaker, let's look at the facts in the budget of the fiscal year in which we currently reside. And the fact is that we have more than doubled our support for home care, which the honourable member mentions, in the last 3 years. That home care support is something that's delivered by health units in this province. It's something that I support them delivering. And frankly, I believe the $148 million that we provide to health units across this province is a very important component of moving our health system into more of a continuum of care while recognizing government's desire, and I would say Albertans' desire, to do so within a balanced budget time frame. The Edmonton Board of Health and all boards of health, in fact, the whole health industry in this province, is working to ensure that those $3.5 billion that we dedicate to health are being used in the best possible way, and I applaud them at every step of the way.
Highwood, followed by Edmonton Kingsway.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today to ask a question to the Minister of the Environment. Mr. Speaker, in 1985, a scientific tests and studies was conducted on the former Gulf refinery and asphalt plant in Calgary led to placing a large amount of contaminated soils in a sealed crypt. However, in 1990, Petro-Canada contracted with the Foothills Landfill Authority and its operator to dispose of 39,000 tons of contaminated soil in this regional sanitary landfill. Because the site is very close to the sandstone formation that contains the water supply of many of the area residents, concern has been expressed to heavy metals, etc., posing a potentially serious health hazard. What is the Minister's Department doing to verify the degree to which this danger exists?
Quite simply, Mr. Speaker, the Department has just completed a sampling program. It was completed late last month, and the analysis is currently underway, and that analysis will be presented to the Board of Health appeal hearing on April 17th, and if indeed it's found that these materials are of a hazardous nature, then steps will be taken to get those materials out of the landfill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Minister has anticipated my next question and answered it. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you. Edmonton Kingsway. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question's to the Premier. In September 23rd, 1990, the Minister and the Treasurer stood up and admitted that they had overestimated Novatel's revenues by $21 million. On December 31st, the government indicated it would buy back Novatel, paying $160 million for a company that had just lost $204 million. Yet on January 11th of this year, the Cabinet decided to expose the taxpayers of this province to an additional $90 million in loan guarantees to Novatel Corporation. Will the Premier tell this House what information the Cabinet requested and received from the Minister that led them to make this extra $90 million commitment of taxpayers' money?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I guess the honourable member wants to rephrase the question in a different way regarding the responsibilities of the Minister of Technology, Research and Telecommunications. I'm sure he'll note them in Hansard and will respond when he's back in the House.
No, my question was, what information did the Cabinet ask from the Minister? And the Premier should be able to answer that if he was at any Cabinet meetings that made this decision. Now, given that the Minister claimed that he didn't know of the magnitude of the losses in Novatel until March the 12th, how could the Cabinet commit themselves to this extra $90 million in funding in January without informing themselves of Novatel's financial condition?
Mr. Speaker, I'm sure the applause is for the member getting the question out correctly.
Yeah, just barely, just barely.
He is improving. The minister responsible, Mr. Speaker, may respond when he's back in the House.
Edmonton Kingsway perhaps would be good enough to look at Beauchesne 411 subsection 2. Edmonton Avonmore is next.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question, sir, to the Minister for Family and Social Services. Mr. Speaker, 2 Edmonton volunteer sector agencies which treat children who have been sexually abused may be the latest casualties in the government's attempt to balance its budget by eroding the quality of services for people. Given that the 2 agencies are extremely concerned about the change from grant funding to fee-for-service funding, will the Minister agree to meet immediately with these 2 agencies?
John.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I'm always happy to meet with community agencies in Edmonton and other parts of the province, but as in reference to the specific question being raised by the member for Edmonton Avonmore, what I would want to point out to her is what the changes are really about, Mr. Speaker, are making more services available to children in need. And this government makes it very clear, Mr. Speaker, that it's children that we focus our efforts around. It's children that we set our priorities around. In this instance, Mr. Speaker, there were 3 or 4 agencies that were being funded on a contractual basis to provide those services. We're trying to make those services available, Mr. Speaker, through a number of additional agencies on an equal and fair footing. Mr. Speaker, I know that the member opposite has raised concerns about waiting lists. Mr. Speaker, we're doing something about waiting lists by making these services available by all agencies that are providing them here in the City of Edmonton on a fair and equal and reasonable basis.
Mr. Speaker, what the minister is advocating is the cutting of services, because one of the agencies will have to cut treatment for adolescent offenders, and advocacy services by both agencies will be jeopardized. Mr. Speaker, given that a department official bluntly said that it was not worth the money to send a child therapist to court with that child, will the minister reconsider his policy of saving dollars on the backs of abused children?
Mr. Speaker, let me make it very clear. Not one single dollar is being cut. Not one, Mr. Speaker. What this is about, Mr. Speaker, is making sure that those children in Edmonton and region that need services on a timely basis are going to get services on a timely basis, Mr. Speaker. And it is... Mr. Speaker, previously, services were being made available through 3 or 4 agencies in the City of Edmonton. Now, Mr. Speaker, services are going to be made available through all the agencies and corporations that are providing those services in the City of Red Deer. I think it's a very progressive step, Mr. Speaker. And again, our focus is on children and making sure that they're getting the services that they need from professionals. And there are other professionals in the community that are providing those services, Mr. Speaker, but making sure that they get those services on a timely and appropriate basis.
Calgary Buffalo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To the Premier sounds like a 19th hole comedian when he joshes us about the information that's so freely available from his government. He's actually quite funny and obviously kidding when he tells us to put questions and motions on the order paper when last year 2/3, 169 in total, were flatly refused. For example, last year his government refused to answer the question that I put on the motion paper about the cost of the Kananaskis golf course and the amount of rent and expense of the province with respect to the golf course. Hardly state secrets. So I'm wondering, Mr. Speaker, whether the Premier will regale this House by telling us on what principle this information with respect to the Kananaskis golf course was refused to Albertans.
On the order paper, Mr. Speaker, those are decisions that I think the honourable member knows, put before the House, and the House decides.
Tell us another one.
Well, there you go again. What a joker. What a kidder. Well, I'm wondering whether the Premier would undertake this, and that is to publish specific written guidelines for the release of this information, and then appoint an independent commissioner to adjudicate disputes. Perhaps even the ethics commissioner that we expect to be appointed under the conflict of interest guidelines. Let's get it pinned down.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the member's been here long enough to know about O'Shane and the directions that are given. And surely, Mr. Speaker, if the honourable member is unable to frame a request in a way that convinces the House, that's his failure, not the rules failure.
Right. Well, I don't know what your supplementary is, but Recreation and Parks, very briefly.
Just supplemental, Mr. Speaker, to the question. The honourable member has posed a question about information, and I'm aware that he has received the full information package from the private sector operators of the Kananaskis golf course, plus the agreement this summer, and he can look at that information.
Calgary Fish Creek. Calgary Fish Creek. Order. Calgary Fish Creek.
Mr. Speaker, Another illustration of Alberta's buoyant economy came recently with the announcement of an imaginative new subdivision in the Fish Creek constituency called Mackenzie Town. Mr. Speaker, as exciting as this new announcement is, it unfortunately will exacerbate the very serious problem of access into Fish Creek Park by those communities from the adjacent communities on the south side of the Bow River. To illustrate the problem, Mr. Speaker, in the absence of a footbridge, youngsters are biking along Highway 22X in order to reach the park with the obvious risk of serious accident. I'm wondering, could the Minister of Recreation and Parks advise the Assembly what he proposes to do to resolve this very serious issue?
Mr. Speaker, the member of Fish Creek has certainly identified a concern that we have, and he has a very unique situation in his constituency, one that we would all envy. Fish Creek Provincial Park is unique that it's surrounded by total high-density residential housing, and it has about 2,000 acres of beautiful wilderness and recreational activity. What we're doing is we're looking now at the design, the costs, and the sites of a footbridge to allow some 3,000 residents from the Mackenzie Lake area and their children to access Fish Creek Park. We're looking at a site on the Bow River that's opposite where the Burns Ranch home site used to be. But we have to, in that time, looking at it, also consider the financial costs, the budgetary implications as we look at our fiscal responsibility.
Well, Mr. Speaker, on behalf of those 3,000 constituents to whom the Minister has referred, can he put a time frame on his analysis of the data and a time frame as to when these capital initiatives might be expected by those constituents?
I can't give an absolute time frame for the capital initiative directives, but we are now working in the department at the site, and we have met recently with Karma, the developers in the area. We will be meeting with the City of Calgary. I'm going to put together a package and be back to you in a 2-month time frame.
Edmonton Belmont.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, on Monday in the Assembly, the Minister of Labour said that the government hasn't got any plan to raise the minimum wage, but that the government is indeed reviewing it. The last time that the minimum wage was raised was in 1988, and they took a 70-cent an hour increase, but it took 8 years of government review to go from $3.80 an hour to $4.50 an hour. So to the Minister, I would ask, can you at least advise the Assembly what standard you will use when you set the minimum wage this coming time? Will it be the Consumer Price Index, the average industrial wage, or the WBTU, which stands for whatever business tells us?
9 cents a year.
Well, it won't be WNDTU, whatever NDs tell us. Mr.
What's that? You like that, do you? It's yours.
That's correct. Mr. Speaker, once again, the right question is not being asked. Once again, there is a formulaic approach, a simplistic approach, attempting to reduce a very serious question of minimum wage and what appropriate level might be set into a simple A plus B equals C kind of response. The minimum wage is one of those pieces of the overall social security net, and it has to fit in to the web that is established. One of the things that we have to consider, of course, is the overall economic strength of Alberta, and I'm pleased to say that at the moment and for the foreseeable future, Alberta does have and is predicted to have the strongest performing economy in Canada. But there are other aspects that need to be factored in as well.
Honourable Minister, let's go supplementary.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I didn't know I was on jeopardy or that I was going to get a lecture in the A plus B theorem. But, Mr. Speaker, it seems that every time that we ask for a review of the minimum wage, we get a commitment from the government that it's going to be reviewed, and we never know when that's going to take place. So I'd ask the Minister, will she at least commit to the Assembly today to bring to the Cabinet a suggestion that there be an annual legislative review so that the working poor of Alberta can find out who's on what side in this issue?
Speaker, I am committing to the Legislative Assembly that the matter is under review, including process.
Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, earlier this week, the chairperson of the Mayor of Calgary's Task Force on Community and Family Violence submitted a report in which he said, and I quote, "It is the provincial government that has been a disappointment. There was not an organization that came to us that didn't speak to the problem of either underfunding, cutbacks in funding, or lack of funding. Sexually abused children, battered women, and male batterers seeking treatment go without help," end of quote. To the Minister of Family and Social Services, given that there are inadequate treatment facilities, does the Minister have a plan which includes increasing the number of spaces to provide counseling and treatment for abusers both before and after court appearances?
Mr. Speaker, I'd want to point out a number of things. As the member for Calgary knows, that it's an issue that crosses the boundaries of a number of ministries. As I've said in this Assembly on many occasions, these ministries are working very closely together to resolve some of the outstanding issues. We have interdepartmental task force that is addressing it. But I'd also want to, Mr. Speaker, comment on the Mayor's report itself. As the member knows, there are over 60 recommendations in there. I've taken the liberty of contacting the Mayor's office to thank him for undertaking the initiative of review of family violence in the city of Calgary, and to indicate to him that we as a government are very anxious to work with him to find some long-term and meaningful solutions. We've made it very clear, Mr. Speaker, all along that it's important for all levels of government to work together on this. It's important for all levels of government to work with community agencies and individuals. Mr. Speaker, we've made some meaningful progress, and we're going to continue to make meaningful progress through a joint effort.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm very pleased that the Minister will be cooperating with the Mayor's Task Force. Section 7 of the report deals specifically with child abuse. And in this regard, I'd like to ask the Minister, what are you doing today to provide counseling for traumatized and broken children? These children cannot go without help any longer.
Well, Mr. Speaker, again, certainly I'm responsible for children that come under the mandate of the Child Welfare Act, and I can only say to the member from Calgary that in those instances, we're making sure that services are provided on a very timely and effective basis, and we'll continue to do that.
Edmonton Meadowlark, followed by Edmonton Beverly.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, despite the fact that this government has increased everything from taxes to health care premiums, the Minister of Forestry, Lands and Wildlife continues to refuse to raise stumpage rates above 1975 levels because, and I quote, "all the industry right across North America is in a serious problem. We have mills in Alberta that are in a problem." To the Minister, is the Minister admitting that his government has committed hundreds of millions of dollars to loans, loan guarantees, and infrastructural support to a pulp industry that is in serious trouble? Is this going to be the next Novotel in this province?
Mr. Speaker, I wish the honourable member for Meadowlark would get up to speed and not give the same speech as he gave a year ago. Because if he was up to speed with his facts, he would see a couple of things. That number one, stumpage rates, what has happened to stumpage rates in other provinces, for example, British Columbia, where they increased them dramatically, and the impact it had on their industry. There's a softwood lumber tax that increased the cost to the industry, and that softwood lumber tax is still in place. Also, we put in free-to-grow standards, which make the expense to the industry even that much higher on their cost of doing business. And I would only ask him to use a little common sense and think about it for just 1 minute. If stumpage rates were so low, how come profits aren't high in the forest sector? Right now we've had closures of plants and others that have been in difficulty with layoffs, and that our stumpage rates I think are fair and reasonable. I don't look at reducing the stumpage rates because of the industry problems, but you only have to look across this country and look at what's happening and look at our stumpage rate in comparison with theirs, and we will say it's very fair.
Mr. Speaker, could the minister please tell us how a company like Alberta Pacific could project annual revenues of $700 to $800 million while paying Albertans only $7 million, less than 1%, for the trees that they will use to create these revenues?
Mr. Speaker, the premise on which the honourable member always bases his question, in my view, is suspect. I don't know where he's got his numbers from. I think that he uses the price of a tree on a stump when it's standing is not the same price as what it is stacked in a yard. And Mr. Speaker, it is convoluted economics I can't figure out. If you would provide that information, I'd be happy to give him an answer.
Thank you. Point of order, career development and employment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise on a point of order, and I would cite many citations or violations, in particular, if one were to refer to standing orders of the Legislative Assembly of Alberta under 13.4, 23H and J, and it could further follow up under Beauchene's 333, 334, 46, and 491. But for the purpose of my point of order, I would focus on 23J, Mr. Speaker, and I would quote, makes allegations against another member from Section 23 in standing orders. The honourable member for Westlock Sturgeon stated I was crazy. While I may be, and may be the member's wish, and I don't have papers to say I'm not, Mr. Speaker, the comments were made in deference to a statement I presented to the Assembly in reference to jurisdictional powers given to the province of Quebec by then Prime Minister Pierre Trudeau. The member's remarks, Mr. Speaker, would imply I misled the House. I certainly will abide by your ruling, Mr. Speaker.
The chair will take the matter under advisement and will review the blues. Orders of the day.
Government bills and orders.